Outside of maybe Vulcans, Klingons are the Star Trek aliens. They come from the planet Kronos, or Kling, or Kronos?
I can see my house from here.
They've come in a few different flavors, but the vast majority of Klingon culture has been the 90s variety, next generation stuff. A species of honorable warriors who long for nothing more than to die a worthy death in battle and enter Sto-vo-kor. We've seen lots of Klingons in over 50 years of Star Trek, and almost every single one has been a warrior. But just like how not every human in the future is a member of Starfleet, surely not every Klingon is a bloodthirsty warrior. A civilization where everybody has the same job couldn't survive, much less become an intergalactic power that could stand toe-to-toe with the Federation.
You didn't believe all Klingons were soldiers.
So let's take a look at some of the Klingons we've seen that contribute to their society in other ways, besides being warriors. First, let's address the Klingon, the character we've seen more than any other, Mr. Worf. He gets his fair share of mockery from other Klingons for being a Starfleet officer and not a warrior, but let's be real here. Worf has the job closest to a warrior that Starfleet offers. Starfleet's primary mission isn't warfare, but when there's battle to be done, that's usually when Worf gets involved. He starts off in security, and after joining Deep Space Nine, he becomes the Strategic Operations Officer and sometimes Captain of the Defiant. All pretty much warrior stuff. Obviously, he's a complex character that has built up a lot of nuance across hundreds of appearances, and later on he becomes an ambassador, but overall his primary job is battle. We're calling that a warrior. In fact, let's broaden out the definition of warrior here. You don't have time for me to list every Klingon comms officer or ship's doctor. If you work on a Klingon bird of prey, you're a warrior. A junior officer in engineering or the intern who cleans up after the Targs? They're all going to Sto-vo-kor when the ship goes down. The same goes for prison guards, because we do see a lot of them too. There's plenty of Klingon politicians and diplomats, but they generally rise to those ranks through military service. We've seen a few chancellors of the High Council like Gorkon, Gowron, Martok, and L'Rell, who declares herself chancellor by holding the remote control for a bomb that can destroy the Klingon homeworld. Which, I mean, you gotta respect it. Oh, and Worf is the Klingon chancellor for like 30 seconds. But these are still mostly warriors. There has to be some non-warrior Klingons I'm not thinking of.
Objection!
Of course, lawyers. There's nothing better than a good Star Trek courtroom drama, and we've seen a few Klingon lawyers. There was Kolos, the lawyer who defended Captain Archer in front of a Klingon tribunal. Kolos gives us the best look at Klingon society outside of the warrior class. He had a long career as an attorney. His father was a teacher and his mother was a scientist.
Now, all young people want to do is take up weapons as soon as they can hold them.
He's pretty cool, but there was this less cool lawyer who tries to frame our sweet, sweet Worf. And let's not forget about Star Trek VI, where Kirk and McCoy are represented by... Worf? Yeah, that's Michael Dorn in the role of Worf. This is what, 75 years before The Next Generation? The common understanding is that this is Worf's grandfather or some other ancestor. But there has never been an official explanation for why Worf is here. You'd think across 280 some episodes of television, he'd have brought up his Grandpa Worf, the famous attorney. Though I guess we only see him try one case, and he does not win. All these Klingon tribunals also, of course, include prosecutors, judges, and a bunch of guys who I assumed are paid to stand around in the audience and go wild whenever anything happens. You know, at least they're having a good time. We do meet a Klingon research scientist in Enterprise when they kidnap Dr. Phlox to cure an epidemic that's dissolving Klingon forehead ridges. Also killing them. That's really the main thing. Antok does work for the military, but it's very clear that his passion is in medicine. Unlike Kolos the lawyer, whose family pressured him into law, Antok comes from a warrior house, and his father disowned him when he chose to be a scientist and not a warrior.
Sounds like a bad dad, if you ask me.
The implication is that Antok goes into forehead reconstruction for Klingons who lost their ridges, which is excellent, and I love it. There is an episode in the final season of Lower Decks that focuses on a pair of Klingon farmers. One is a disgraced captain, but I want to focus on his brother Malor, who isn't interested in the glory of battle and is the closest we ever see to a Klingon slacker, and I love him for that. Okay, look, this was all just build up to the main event, the absolute pinnacle of Klingons outside the warrior class. I'm talking about the Klingon chef. He doesn't have a name. This is the guy who runs the Klingon restaurant on the Deep Space Nine promenade, who serves up racht and sings for his customers. This is something we haven't seen yet in the culture, an artist. We know about Klingon opera, but we never see any composers or musicians outside of this absolute king. In both cuisine and music, the Klingon chef, or TKC as I call him, is just a delight. And he seems to be running a very successful restaurant considering the diverse crowds he draws for the piles of live worms that make up Klingon cuisine. Look, I've never had it. It's probably delicious. Okay, this was mostly just an excuse to talk about my guy Klingon chef. But it does show that despite how much time we've spent watching Klingons over the last 50 years, there's still so much we don't know about their society, which is a great indicator of why Star Trek has so much longevity. There's so much implied depth in every corner of this franchise to explore, and that's pretty cool. Let me know if I missed any non-warrior Klingons, because I definitely missed some.